We have a rather arrogant quality about ourselves in these modern times. We seem to truly think we have reached the acme of human society. Well, I hate to be the one to disabuse you of that notion, but I'm going to. Almost everything we do has been done before. Our ancestors hold the key to finding many solutions of modern society. This list looks at some of the ways our ancestors lived, which can point to a lot of best practices for today's problems. 10. Save the planet. It was only in 1899 that the world's most commonly used plastic polymer was actually invented. It wasn't until the 1930s that ICI opened the first manufacturing plant for this plastic polymer on September 1, 1939, same day Hitler invaded Poland. Nevertheless, plastic production on a significant scale didn't occur until the 60s. Afterwards, well, you know what happens next because you're living in it. Basic everyday products have been leading to an increased level of pollution as a result of the amount of waste they generate due to single-use plastic. These products are either thrown away or go to landfill as recycling is expensive. It's no wonder that our ancestors managed to make this waste-free life. They used glass containers to store their food, and most food was at their disposal. So dealing with waste back then was a lot easier. We as a society seem to be perpetually trying to find solutions to our modern issues with one constraint. It must make someone a lot of money, and it must not imply that things in the past were better. The way we once lived has many solutions for. 9. Live within their means. In 1944, the Bretton Woods system was put in place. Under this, countries no longer needed to redeem their money for gold. Instead, they redeemed it for US dollars, which became recognized as the new form of gold. The US dollar was pegged to the gold standard. This meant that it had stable value, but also allowed for more flexibility in international finance. For example, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank had more freedom when it came to creating new money. Ending the connection with gold, combined with the printing press availability from that point onwards, meant we began living off future earnings from that moment on. The average person nowadays doesn't look like someone who lived during the Great Depression. The reason for this is that, with all of today's technology, we have been made rich even though most people claim this to be artificial. It will eventually come crashing down, and we just don't know when. Before this system was put in place, people earned money from their labor, and they saved that money. Once they needed something, they used the money that they had saved. They didn't use a credit card to purchase things with funds that came from their wage. So it would seem that most people they knew weren't using installment plans, home equity to buy things, or a layaway. Though most still might have needed help from relatives financially, they didn't live paycheck to paycheck like my friend does. It might seem that instant gratification is the best because it gives you what you want right away. One example of this is layaway. This option wasn't widely available until after the Depression, which happened because of the newly founded Federal Reserve Bank's policies. 8. Improve their mind. Books. Simplified, but true. We have access to them, but instead of reading, we just stare at a screen all day. It is easy to become addicted to social media. It is fun and convenient, but also unhealthy. A better way of consuming content is through book apps like Google Books and Kindle, which can be accessed on the go. These platforms are great because they will not pull you out of concentration or entertain you for hours on end like endless scrolling through Instagram or Facebook would. You might think that you have better things to do than read about shirts of sheer linen and thick silk and fine flannel, which lost their folds as they fell and covered the table in many-colored disarray, when there are so many other ways to catch attention. But even if it means getting only 15 likes, there are plenty of other reasons why readers. 7. Eat. I'm not surprised you're starting to get frustrated because I can see that this is repetitive. In brief, the fat content in the diet that has been supported by government recommendation in the 60s and 70s started a chain reaction which resulted to obesity. With that out of the way, let's talk about eating history. Until the 19th century, Breakfast was just a meal to have as part of the first meal of the day, with lunch being your main meal. In the 20th century, Adventists encouraged people to eat cereal for breakfast, and then the government encouraged us to replace butter and fat with margarine. Finally, the media convinced people that we needed sugar and other processed treats. There've always been people who were overweight, but these days it feels like more people are set on getting big than staying healthy. We should be careful not to buy products or endorse anything promoted by the media. That means no fad diets. We can't go back in time, so there is one place the media hates: the past. Research has shown that our ancestors ate just as healthily as we do now. They had grocery stores, cars, and other modern things like us. The best way to solve the obesity crisis is to stop people from following any diet advice older than 1940 until we can be sure there are no ulterior motives involved. Say no to unhealthy fad diets. 6. Exercise. So you think you want to lose weight or get fit? Well, here's what you do. Join a gym. That's right, just join one gym and come back once. We have a sense of guilt associated with going for a run outside, but our ancestors shown us otherwise. While the photo above is indisputable proof that someone in Victorian times was inspired by the tools of the Spanish Inquisition to create the most horrific of all torture devices man would ever know: gym equipment, don't be fooled. We can choose to be stationary with our fitness regime, or we can try something different. The best way is to give yourself a mix of doing your exercise sitting down, in front of your TV, and getting up to take the kids for a walk in the park. My dad as a child was required to jump on sheets in a boiling pot each week. What do you think of this as a family tradition, as an alternative exercise opportunity? In an hour, walk around your neighborhood instead of going to the gym. Stroke the ego of the guy with the Trump 2020 sign in his yard. Help an old lady across the street. You will find that not only does your health improve, but so does your relationship with your neighbors, and you may even find it makes you a nicer person outright. While shopping, go to the grocery section and grab a can of beans. It's much more fun than doing the same old workout, and it'll save you time. 5. Have manners. It's not uncommon to hear about people refusing to write thank you cards for birthday gifts. Some don't even bother writing thank you notes after attending a wedding and tend to be the last remnant of formal thank you notes in society. But long gone are the days. Whenever someone gave you a gift or hosted you to dinner, it was the height of bad manners not to write a thank you. Gratefully, our society has progressed so far that this is no longer the case. This is not the case for all social media interactions. These days it can be difficult to get even a thank you on Instagram or Snapchat. It used to be the case that manners were better across society, but perhaps not anymore. If someone invited you to a meal at their house, they expected you would invite them back, and they expected that if you were invited out, the person who had invited them was going to pay for all of your meals. Of course not. Just like when you cook at home. When you host a party at a restaurant, you should offer to pay the bill. Those are the rules. It used to be different. If you hosted, you would have ordered a meal for everyone at the table ahead of time, so you knew what it would cost. However, there is no reason why following this old rule wouldn't still work these days. 4. Build. Building construction has seen rapid development in the past few years, and that's due to our access to new materials and regulations. These allow us to build houses much faster and with more variety than we could before. But newer structures can't withstand the test of time in the same way structures built with natural materials, such as stone and timber. One good example is the 2004 earthquake in Japan, which killed 60% of Christchurch's deaths when it caused the CTV building to collapse. I hope next time there's a big earthquake, I'm in a reinforced building. And don't even mention how ugly a lot of buildings look today in comparison to those beautiful neoclassical facades that came to dominate buildings in Paris and London, and which were also a major source of inspiration for the beauty in American cities. There is no question that modern buildings offer a certain aesthetic appeal, but they're no match for historic structures like Buckingham Palace. 3. Teach and learn. Teaching a college class is a very fulfilling experience. However, teaching a subject where all content must be conveyed in a subjective way would be difficult, since there's no objective measure of what students have learned. There are surely a lot of vids on YouTube with young college students who don't know who Adolf Hitler is. You may not like this solution, but I don't know how you'd amend it. But when that day comes, we can think about the education system that was given to those who came not so long ago. A modern education grounded in ancient education systems can help kids to better understand the course of mankind. It can also provide them with time-tested knowledge that has been passed down by successive generations. And then in the late 20th century, we destroyed it. Perhaps it's time to bring it back. 2. Create art. For now, we'll leave you with this brief statement about modern art and where it's heading. The quality of modern art is seriously declining, but until it has reached its peak, you'll have to bear with us. Unsafe. Plenty of art produced before the 20th century was beautiful. Unfortunately, there has been a paradigm shift in the 20th century, with art becoming more focused on shock or novelty than beauty. Aristotle used the concept of mimesis to argue that art was not only an imitation but also the use of mathematical ideas and symmetry in one's search for perfection. Now, however, the post-mimetic world exists where ruins are sought. And according to Oscar Wilde, life imitates art far more than art imitates life. There's a lot in the media that's not well written, and it shows in a lot of the content we see on social media. 1. Have fun. One could say that the future generations would believe we lived in the happiest times had they seen how much fun one can have by using Apple products. The ads of their products are full of laughing groups of friends who explore fun hobbies. Although this may sound like an unfulfilling life, it's by no means a common one. For most people, work and leisure balance out to achieve an acceptable level of happiness and well-being. Then we lap up movies like A Christmas Carol that take important critiques of society and turn them into depressing stories about ugly old women who beat children or crippled men with misery in every line drawn across their face. Perhaps it allows us to be thankful we aren't in their situation. Perhaps it makes us feel better about our own lives by seeing theirs as worse. But life for the Victorians was hardly miserable. They lived in a time of great breakthroughs and discoveries. Museums opened to the public for the first time, and in 1851, one was created specifically for international exhibitors. This is where the Great Exhibition of 1851 was held. Glittering Crystal Palace, new wonders on display. Disney likes to ruin fairy tales that are still loved by children. Stories about goblins and ghosts were meant for strong men who are looking for frights. One might say that life was simpler back in their day, especially when it came to things like creativity. Houses were filled with the smells of spices from newly colonized territories, and optimism seemed to fill the air. Such was the case with their churches, which filled just as much with incense. It is not always the case that something old is better than anything new. Sometimes, the old ones are just as good as the new ones. In conclusion, we should not underestimate our ancestors and their inventions. They might have been less advanced than ours today, but sometimes those things were better. Thank you for watching. You can support us by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. See you soon.